There's something that needs to be said. Since you entered someone's life, everything has changed. It's not an exaggeration, it's not something said lightly. It's real. You are the answer this person has always been looking for, even without knowing exactly what they were searching for. You brought completeness to a life that once seemed incomplete. You are the calm in the storms, the balance that was never found anywhere else. Your presence makes everything feel right, as if finally the void has been filled. This can't be kept hidden anymore. You are the missing piece, the one that makes the puzzle finally fit together. And now that you're here, it's impossible to imagine how it would be without you. It was important for you to know. You are different. It's not just an impression. It's something that goes beyond that, something this person has never felt before. It's hard to describe because these words still seem small compared to what you represent. When you arrived, you brought something unexpected, something transformative. And since then, everything that was confusing started to organize in a way that seemed impossible before. Maybe you've never noticed, but the impact you have goes far beyond what is seen. It's in the way your words touch, how your presence changes the environment, how even the silence next to you feels comfortable. There is something in you that is unique, something that no one else has. And that's exactly why this person can't ignore what they feel. Life hasn't always been simple, and so often the answers seemed far out of reach. But suddenly, upon meeting you, everything changed. It's not a cliché, nor something taken from a movie. It's real. You brought the clarity that someone has always sought but never found. You made what seemed broken come together again, in a way that no one else could. Now there's a dilemma, to say or not to say. Speaking may seem like a risk, but not speaking would be even worse. There is a fear that you might not see things the same way, that maybe this is something only that person feels. But even with this fear, the need for you to know is greater. Because holding this in would be a weight that's unbearable to carry. Every moment by your side is like a piece that fits, a memory that imprints. The way you smile, the way your eyes shine when you're talking about something you love, even your silences. Everything about you is striking, it can't be avoided, and someone doesn't want to avoid it. Not anymore. This message is not a request. It's not a demand. It's just a truth that needs to be said. Because sometimes what we feel is so strong that holding it in is no longer an option. And this that someone feels for you is exactly that. Something impossible to ignore, impossible to keep inside. With each passing day, your presence in someone's life becomes more evident, not because you make an effort for it, but because you simply are. There is something about you that can't be explained with logic. It's the way everything around you seems lighter, simpler. It's as if, by your side, things start to make sense. Have you ever stopped to think about the impact you have on people's lives? Probably not, because that doesn't seem to be the kind of thing you worry about measuring. But someone notices. Someone has seen. Someone feels. It's hard not to notice the way you light up the space you're in, how your laughter can transform an ordinary moment into something unforgettable. As limited as words may be, it needs to be said, you are not just someone who appeared by chance. You are the reason so many things started to fall into place. Before, everything seemed like an endless quest, a chase for something that might not even exist. But then you came, and the quest was over. It's as if the puzzle finally fit together. It's not an exaggeration, it's not a craving, it's not a fantasy, it's simply the truth. When you speak, there's something in your voice that captures attention in a different way. It's not just what you say, but how you say it. Each word carries a strength that goes straight to the heart. This is not common. This is not something you find just anywhere. It's impossible to ignore how unique you are. Your authenticity, your essence, your way of being. You don't try to impress. And maybe that's exactly why you impress so much. It's all so natural, so genuine that someone can't help but want to be close to you. And it's not just about wanting your company, but because being by your side brings a sense of belonging that never existed before. This message is not just about feelings, it's about recognition. Someone recognizes in you everything they have always sought. Your presence is like an anchor, a safe harbor, something that brings stability amidst chaos. It's no exaggeration to say that you have become indispensable, not in a possessive or suffocating way, but in the sense that the idea of a life without you simply doesn't make sense now. But perhaps the most surprising thing of all is how you don't even seem to realize the impact you have. How can you be so important, so essential, without even trying? Someone wonders this all the time, without finding answers. Maybe you are just like that, in a way that can't be explained. And that's what makes everything even more incredible. There are no expectations regarding this message. There are no demands, no pressure. What exists here is simply a desire for you to know, because there are things that can't be kept forever, and this feeling is one of them. You deserve to know how important you are, how much your presence has transformed everything. What you will do with this only you can decide, but one thing is certain. Someone needed to say it. They needed to get it off their chest and turn it into words, because what is not said can sometimes be lost. And losing the chance to talk about you would be a mistake that someone would never forgive themselves for. Even as these words are being written, there is a weight in trying to express something so deep, so sincere, without sounding exaggerated. But the truth is that no word seems sufficient to capture what you represent. And yet, someone needs to keep trying because you deserve to know how special you are. Have you ever noticed how everything around you seems to spin differently when you're present? It's not something you do on purpose, but it's undeniable. Conversations are lighter, silence is more comfortable, and even the simplest moments become memorable. You have a unique way of turning the ordinary into something extraordinary. But it's not just about what happens externally. It's about what you provoke inside those who are by your side. It's a mixture of admiration, tranquility, and at the same time a certain desperation, because someone is afraid of never finding this in anyone else. You awaken emotions that are not easy to explain, but are impossible to ignore. You are like a constant amid so many uncertainties, and this does not mean that you need to be perfect, because no one is. But even in your imperfections, there is something so real, so human, that makes you even more fascinating. You are proof that it is not perfection that connects people, but authenticity. Someone wishes you could see yourself through the eyes of those who admire you. Because if you could, you would understand the reason for every word of this message. You would understand why it is impossible not to be impacted by your presence, by your way of being, and by every detail that makes you who you are. And maybe, even now, you still have no idea how much you've changed someone's life. Maybe you think this message is an exaggeration or something you don't deserve, but it's not. You deserve every word, every feeling, every moment of this admiration. Because what you brought is not something small, it's not something that can be forgotten. It's something that transforms, that leaves a mark, that changes everything. There are nights when someone finds themselves thinking about how things got to this point. How did you manage to become the center of so many thoughts, of so many feelings? There is no exact answer. Because what happened wasn't planned, it wasn't forced, it was natural. It was as if something simply clicked into place, as if the missing piece had finally been found. And you know what's curious? You probably didn't even try. You didn't put in the effort to claim this space, you didn't need to, because who you are by itself is already enough. Your essence is so strong, so unique, that it simply occupied a place that no one else could reach. This message is not about creating expectations. It's not about placing a burden on you or expecting something in return. It's just about being honest, because someone believes you deserve to know, deserve to understand the impact you have even if you never asked for it. You are the kind of person who shows up in someone's life and leaves marks that time cannot erase. You make even the simplest things meaningful. And as much as this message may seem like a vent, in fact it is a thank you. Thank you for being who you are, for existing, for crossing the path of someone who will never be the same after meeting you. You might never fully understand how much you have changed someone's world, and that's okay. This isn't about making you see things you don't want to, or carrying something you don't need. But still, there's a need to keep writing because not everything can stay locked inside. Sometimes words need to come out, even when they seem insufficient to describe the vastness of what you mean. There are moments when someone thinks of you, and without realizing it, a smile appears. Not because something grand happened, but because even the simplest memories involving you have that power. It's the way you look, as if you can see what others cannot. It's the tone of your voice which seems to touch the soul, even when you are not saying anything extraordinary. It's your way of being present, of being whole even in the smallest details. You may not know it, but there's an aura around you that is uncommon. It has nothing to do with appearance, although even in that you stand out. It has to do with what you convey. There's something in you that inspires safety, admiration, and even a desire to be better. Because being near you makes someone feel more alive, more present, more aware of what truly matters. You might not perceive this in yourself, because the impact you have is not easily measured. It lies in simple gestures, in words spoken without thought, even in moments when you do nothing but exist. That's where your strength resides. It's not rehearsed or calculated. It's simply you being you. And that's what makes it impossible for someone to ignore what they feel, because it's not just about liking who you are, it's about understanding that you are a turning point, that your presence came at the right moment, when so many things were out of place. And even without intention, you rearranged everything. Has anyone ever tried to put this in perspective, to understand why you are so remarkable? Maybe it's the fact that beside you things seem easier to face, or perhaps it's because you make the person next to you feel seen, as if it were impossible to go unnoticed in your eyes. The exact reason doesn't matter. What matters is that this is real, it is profound, it is impossible to ignore. There is an almost visceral need for you to understand the impact you have, not because anyone expects something in return, but because you deserve to know. It's unfair that you don't know how special you are, how much you have changed someone's life in a way that seemed unimaginable before meeting you. The curious thing is that even when you are not around, your presence is felt. In thoughts, in memories, in small details that bring you back, even if just for an instant. No matter how much time passes or how far away you may be, you are there, occupying a space that no one else has managed to occupy. This message, deep down, is not just an acknowledgement. It is an act of courage. Because talking about what someone feels for you is exposing oneself. It is showing something that perhaps has never been revealed to anyone. But there are times when the truth is bigger than fear. And the truth is this: you are indispensable. You are unique. You are someone that no one wants or can lose. If you are reading this, you might be wondering why someone decided to write all this. Maybe you think these are just words thrown to the wind, but they are not. Each of them was thought, felt, lived. Because everything said here is real. It is the attempt to turn into words something that often seems bigger than any phrase or text. And even now, as you read this, there is so much more that hasn't been said, not for lack of desire, but because there are things that can only be felt, things that don't fit into messages that cannot be translated, but still they are there, pulsing, insisting on existing. You are someone who brings meaning, who gives purpose, who transforms even the smallest moments into something worth remembering. You are much more than someone might have the courage to tell you face to face, but through these words, perhaps you will begin to understand a little of what it means to be you in someone's life. You are someone who, without realizing it, transformed another person's world. It was not through effort or intention, but because you simply exist in the most authentic and unique way. Every word spoken, every gesture, every shared moment, everything about you leaves a mark. And as much as this message tries to translate the impact you have, it may never convey the depth of what you mean. Someone needed to get this off their chest, needed to put into words what they feel, because keeping it inside would be a mistake. See, it's not about expectations or demands, but about recognition. You deserve to know how special you are, how much of a difference you made. There are people who pass through others' lives without leaving traces, but you are unforgettable. Now, one last thing. If you felt that this message touched something in you, if it made sense in any way, or sparked a reflection, do something with it. Subscribe here to continue receiving content that makes you think and feel. Leave your like, because it helps to reach more people who might need these words. And finally, comment. Share your experience. Talk about someone who marked your life, or simply say what this awakened in you. Your voice is important just as you are.